review, and each person passes in front of him for evaluation of his or his deeds. Now, the Talmud provides three central ideas behind the day: sitting on the throne, which was Moloch, the sacrifice god in both temples, and a fake god who wasn't even human. And this is where the origin of the Western myth of some bearded man sitting on a cloud passing judgment on us all, except the Jewish, it seems. And all of it is a fear program, which sadly pervades right throughout society to this day. Now, the Jewish calendar is based on the lunar cycle. Well, it would do. This is Lilith again, and the Dark Mother worship. That these harvesting agents then bound the females of this planet via genetics to the moon, as the blood female period cycle is the same length as the orbit of the moon, bound by blood. And you wonder why females go off balance every 4 weeks, or why violence, aggression, crime, and even in the myths that werewolves appear on the full moon. There's your answer. People go nutty or into lunatics. Lunar means moon, tick means parasite. So that the first day of each month originally began with the first sighting of the new moon, and the word month originates from the original term of moonth. And since the 4th century, it's been arranged so that Rosh Hashanah never falls on a Sunday, supposed to be the Sabbath day, Wednesday or Friday. Next category is Mormons and the cult of Ra. The Torah, or is it to Ra, morphed into the Talmud, which then created Christianity. Jesus was not a Christian or a member of any church, which then created the Catholics. Out of that came a Muslim sect. Muslims were Catholics who wished to go on a separate path, all encouraged by the upper order, as that creates divide and conquer and the potential for later wars. Also out of the Catholics came Protestants. These people are protesting Catholics. It was never a religion. Then in came further derivatives like Baptist, Methodist, Episcopal, which would be no surprise to hear their headquarters is in New York, and a whole heap of other type of religious orders as well. And then in came another group that again originated in New York and was subsequently thrown out, which is a familiar pattern throughout history, that only to go on an epic trek across the country of America and arrive in Salt Lake City. All eerily reminiscent of the Exodus, is it not? You see, his story always repeats. Now, the Mormons were pretending to be separate from all others and a whole new religion until you look deeper. Joseph Smith, one of the founders of that cult, said the Book of Mormon was translated from writing on the golden plates in a reformed Egyptian language. Oops. Translated with the assistance of Urim and Thummim and seer stones. Now, Urim and Thummim were two unknown objects that were worn on the breastplate. Who wore those breastplates? The Jewish high priests. It's the dark priesthood class again. and both the special spectacles and the seer stone were at times referred to Urim and Thummim. Now Smith said an angel, more likely a demon, first showed him the location of the plates in 1823, buried in a nearby hill, but he was not allowed to take the plates until 1827. Nice 4-year loop gap there. And Smith began dictating the text of the Book of Mormon around the fall of 1827 until the summer of 1828, when suddenly, just by chance, 116 pages were lost. Said to have been lost by Martin Harris, who incidentally was born in New York as well. Oh dear. But it's a common theme throughout biblical scriptures, or libraries, is it not? Shit goes missing, or created fires. No, they removed those 116 pages to cover stuff up and stop people finding out what this was all really about. Translation began again in April 1829 and finished in June of 29, saying that he translated it by the gift and power of God. Now, Oliver Cowdery acted as a scribe for the majority of the translation during Smith's supposed possession, and we have found out that very few people were allowed to witness the plates. Again, another common theme. Even after the translation was completed, Smith said the plates were returned to the angel. Oh dear. And people fell for this bullshittery. Created a mini empire out of a group of Egyptian plates. Really? Plates that hardly anyone saw and no one can verify to this date. Plates that was received and returned to an angel. I mean, what type of drivel is that? Now, the book described itself as a chronicle of an early Israelite diaspora, integrating with the pre-existing indigenous peoples of the Americas, written by a people called the Nephites. Now, the Nephites are one of 4 groups, along with the Lamanites, Jaredites, hello Mr. Kushner, and Mulekites, described to be in the Book of Mormon as having settled in the ancient Americas. Lamanites described as one small tribe among many in the ancient Americas, a tribe that intermarried with the indigenous Native Americans. In other words, they were not native. A tribe that descended from modern Asia, from a common nomadic ancestry. Lamanites are described as having received a skin of blackness to distinguish them from Nephites. This description, when I found it, blew my mind, as it essentially proves what I've said all along. The term Indians comes not from America, but the exodus of the people that were thrown out of the Garden of Eden in India, who intermarried with the natives of America. Indians, or to use the correct term, Lamanites, went across the land bridge into Alaska and down into modern day America. Now, Mulek, so it all ties in, the Mulekites, was the son of Zedek, where the origin of Melchizedek comes from. Melchi means my king, Zedek the king of Salem, not Jerusalem. Now, according to the Book of Mormon, Lehi family left Jerusalem at the urging of God circa 600 BC and later sailed to the Americas 589 BC, which is a lie in and of itself, as Jerusalem wasn't there then. The Nephites are described as descendants of the Nephi, the fourth son of the prophet Lehi, and the Nephites are portrayed as having a belief in Christ hundreds of years before his birth. Oops. Now, historical accuracy and veracity of the Book of Mormon was and continues to be hotly contested to this day. There is absolutely no archaeological evidence, no linguistic or other evidence of the use of Egyptian writing in ancient America has been discovered, except that it was. It's in the Grand Canyon. Same peoples. Now, to avoid confrontation with New York residents, the members moved to Kirtland, Ohio, and hoped to establish a permanent, quote, New Jerusalem, or City of Zion in Jackson County, Missouri. However, they were expelled from Jackson County in 1833 and fled to other parts of Missouri in 1838. Joseph Smith taught that the indigenous peoples of the Americas were members of some of the lost tribes of Israel. No, they were the Kalimar worshippers out of India and the cult of Ra in Egypt, not the country of Israel, which never existed until 1948. Later he taught that Mormons were Israelites. Yes, you are. And that they may learn of their tribal affiliation within the 12 Israelite tribes. The Mormon affinity for Judaism is expressed by the many references to Judaism in the Mormon liturgy. For example, Smith named the largest Mormon settlement he founded Nauvoo, N-A-U-V-O-O, which means to be beautiful in Hebrew. Brigham Young named a tributary of the Great Salt Lake the Jordan River, which, as stated in From Russia with Love 4, it is where the so-called Exodus ended, in Jordan, not Jerusalem, and was called Ammon, as in Ammon-Ra. The modern-day city is now called Amman. See how they just change one letter around? Oh, it gets lost in the translation. Yeah, right. Another name for Horus is Jor, J-O-R. Add in Dan and a tribal reference to tribes of Dan, and there you have another distortion of names and history, Jordan. The LDS Church created a new writing scheme called the Deseret alphabet, which was based in part on Hebrew. And the LDS Church has a Jerusalem Centre in Israel where students focus their study on Near Eastern history, culture, language, and also the Bible. Now, other connections between the Mormons and the cult of Ra is their chronic abuse of children. They can deny their rampant sexual abuse all they like to outsiders, but this person knows different, having spoken to quite a few within that community. And it is not just a case that they share wives. Remember, the state of Utah was delayed as becoming part of the state due to their sexual infidelity, but they share their children around in sex parties also within the community. And then we have their obsession with gold. Same as Egypt. Mormons have the largest holding of gold in America. The largest. A fair proportion of which came out of the Grand Canyon due to underground connections also prevalent in that community. Hello, Dugway. Joseph Smith, Hiram Smith and Brigham Young were all high-degree Freemasons and from the Merovingian bloodline, which is Anunnaki.